Now listen, before we get into making fun of the first near 40-year-old man for running away from Pinocchio on a live stream for being the first near 40-year-old man for running away from Pinocchio on a live stream, the Drake fans are gonna be insufferable today, so be sure to leave that like and subscribe because I am gonna need it and we are gonna need all the support we can to make sure that everybody remembers that the Iceman is still melting, as now with what just went down, as Drake just made episode 2 of his Iceman series, which is rolling the supposed album of the same name out. I have to say, I don't even know how Lawbury did it, but he really managed to outdo himself here, and honestly put together an even more embarrassing stream where from the gimmicks, skits, disses, and music itself, well, every single thing was an absolute downgrade, other than the comedic value of seeing a grown man who has lost literally everything over the last year in terms of what his music career has turned into, see the reality of an idea coming to fruition of Drake and his team sitting around and deciding that the best way to respond to all of the pressure going on in his career, which is about to end right now, was to get Pinocchio to co-star in the stream and have him do a chase where you, Drake, a 40-year-old man almost, is running away from a symbol and idea that means something else that's a lot more disturbing than what you interpreted it to be. And now, as we are really about to get into the madness of Drake going full Pinocchio, well listen, if you have not already, leave that like, because when it comes to Drake's most baffling move that I really want to say ever, because just what is this even? Well, before we can get into the new song Drake dropped, the snippet he also put out, and the collabs that this stream is even showing off, which is really just showing who is going to be around for this Iceman album, we really now just have to talk about with this record itself and how it is shaping out to be. Well, the album is starting to look more like it should be called Fairy Tale 40-Year-Old Man or something along those lines, because with the heavy push to just lean into the character of Pinocchio here, which again, it's not just in the stream, but Drake is putting his side profile in the album art, and with how calculated and meticulous this all seemingly is in terms of just putting him everywhere, well again, for how lazily and haphazardly Drake has created albums, it almost seems like this is a concept album about whatever weird message he is trying to push with this. Well, overall, when we break it down, it seems like Drake has found a character and icon that he is using to symbolize something very weird. And now for the Drake fans, well, what I honestly find most funny about this now is that the Drake fans' minds are just absolutely blown because of this, as at the end of the day, as they have been so creatively starved and deprived of anything, well, just literally the most basic and surface level symbolism, which again, we are going to get into how Drake actually sent a message which he didn't intend for, which is much more disturbing and looks awful on him. Well, still, just with even the idea that there is something deeper here, they are emphatic over it, and once again, and why they are finally getting any sort of excitement after over a year of the biggest loss we have seen in maybe the entire history of music. Well, it's all because Pinocchio is bringing together the Drake-a-Wish people in the only way that they can possibly come together, which is all through the one guy who they are all secretly obsessed with in none other than Kendrick Lamar, and I think Drake really did it here. He really managed to outdo himself here and create a diss that is memorable and that I am going to be thinking about at least, but not because it gets him any sort of a solid or strong point, but because it's an absolute monstrosity of a creation, both in terms of its design and in the actual way it was brought to reality itself, which now, of course, well now, while Kendrick Lamar literally has some of the most insane songs ever written in the history of music, where he is rapping as other people entirely, telling stories with the ultimate plot twists and narratives that'll just sit there and make you question everything as you know it, and again, with entire bodies of works like these, Kendrick has won prizes in categories where no other rappers have ever been, and as a result of what Kendrick has pushed forward, well, both as a conceptualist and an art form in terms of its writing, rap has been brought to an entire new stratosphere in terms of how the world perceives it. Well, now at the same time as Kendrick does and is still doing all of this, Drake's got Pinocchio costumes lying around that he is using as a symbol for his own art, which once again, in his eyes, this represents Kendrick Lamar. But now, before we get into what Drake said with this here up front and what he wanted everybody to think, just remember, and this is one of the messages that Drake messed up with here, the character of Pinocchio is not just a story of a liar whose nose grows with each lie that he tells, but also, and this is why I really do think that Drake and OVO have a serious media literacy problem, When we look at who the rival of Pinocchio is in the actual stories that all of the other source material you've probably ever seen him in is based off of, well, Pinocchio gets captured by a creep who steals real boys, and I'm just gonna leave this here. I'm not gonna say anything else. And now seriously, I got it together. I'm not gonna get any more messy, but back to what Drake wants us to think about Kendrick Lamar here. And now even with the height of Pinocchio, it's making him look small. And really, now that Drake has reached the full circle point of illusion where he is making fun of Kendrick's height again, I'm not even going to say anything else about that. I think it just speaks for itself. And now when it comes to really what Drake is doing here, when you just internalize that Drake really got together a team to sit and film him running away from a fictional character, and of course as Pinocchio's nose gets longer when he lies. And OVO fans, I know you're not used to literally any sort of deeper meaning in the art that you consume and listen to, so just follow me here. Pinocchio's nose represents all of the lies that Kendrick has told on Drake's name, and then Drake is running away from Kendrick Lamar altogether to try and get away from all the narratives he has pushed. Or I don't know, that's at least what this weird pathetic vision is seemingly trying to tell us? I'm lost. I don't know what to say. What are we even doing? Because seriously, did you just hear what I had to say and what we just got on screen? Because honestly, even for how low Drake has gone, I am baffled that this is the weird point that we have reached. Because if you went back and told all the hypebeasts and losers a little over a year ago before this beef ended and said that after all of it went down, well, about a year later, Drake would end up turning into a content creator more than a rapper, where the best idea he had to roll out his anticipated album by his fans was all to get chased by Pinocchio and have a professional video team record it? I mean, what happened to the game I love? Because truly, what Drake has done is just so pathetic, even beyond words, that really, if this is what you think about when your back is against the wall creatively, you should just hang it up, because what is even the point? And so really, when you just see this and witness the extents that Drake is still going to drag out this beef and try to say that Kendrick Lamar lied about him and that he is this massive liar and hypocrite, all the way to the point where he is now being compared to the most iconic face of lying in the entire history of fiction? Well, again, aside from the accidental message about the boys and all that, even with your own intentions, Drake, this is just baffling. And what's even more funny about this all, to be really honest, is that now when you see how Drake went about doing this and how he showed off this entire scene of this hide and seek game with Pinocchio and then this chase, well, if you can get through the disgust and see Drake running away from the face of lies, what Drake didn't realize is that despite the message he tried to send and that his artistically illiterate stan base reads and hypes this overall up for, when you actually look at what this should symbolize, it really is that Drake is running away from the lies and they are still chasing him no matter what, where he goes, and they will eventually catch him seemingly, which, to be honest, well, again, Drake is being super consistent, as just like the Hard Part 6, where Drake's own hastiness to keep looking cool and to never admit defeat just made him embarrass himself there. We are really seeing the same thing go down once again right within this Iceman Episode 2 stream, and now well beyond the Kendrick Lamar disses that Drake thought would be this deep and groundbreaking thing, but in actuality are the most cringe thing that I have ever seen. And again, while Drake has done so many things that have disappointed hip-hop and myself and that have just been baffling, I really do think with just the entire reality that we are seeing here, I have never just questioned what is going on more. Well, now for the rest of this Drake stream, when he is not trying to use aesthetics to aura farm and pad a runtime on this thing, which really did not have much going on, well, now pretty much in between all the weird scenes where Drake and Pinocchio are in this back and forth with one another, well, Drake did two things, which was play his own music and then welcomes the first featured guest to be a part of this era, who has the burden now of forever being on Team Drake and will be a part of the magnum opus of what will become his ultimate loser's lap. And who I am talking about is Central Cee, who in of itself, well, he previewed a solo track, which sounded like the blueprint or Illmatic compared to everything else Drake has done in this era, which I guess that exposure was good for him on some level. But now whatever goodwill Central Cee got with that, he pretty much lost it right away, as he became the next rapper to get a collab with Drake that was both played here and now as it dropped for everybody to hear right after. Well, now with this song, which is titled Which One and is the second single seemingly off of the Iceman album, Well, once again, I don't know how, but Drake has done it. He has managed to outdo himself once again and put out the worst single that he may have really ever released for any album possible, because this thing is genuinely atrocious. We don't just hear regular Drake do what he does best in this time, which is just make the most mid and passive music ever, but we get the worst version of Drake, which is when he is trying to act like any single person but himself, and here he is trying to do that UK accent once again and just impersonate a culture that he has no business mimicking the way he has, and overall with this. But when you just listen to Drake's performance and hear him speak, and it's both immature and embarrassing, and then you hear the rest of the song itself, which is so forgettable as all of its elements are just so primitive and they don't push anything forward, and they sound like they're made for the backdrop of a club that nobody wants to be at. Well, overall, while this song is bland, and as a result of that, in terms of its instrumentation and stuff like that, it's not inherently the worst thing that we have ever heard from Drake. When you consider the stakes of his career both from the industry and rap perspective, and then also Drake's own personal goals and wants, this is just so confusing of a choice to make, and there is no other way to put it, because really, for Drake to sit here in this time where he is dissing everybody and building a concept album almost around his Kendrick Lamar obsession seemingly, and also he's trying to go for MJ's record for the most #1 songs ever so he can say that clearly, and that is what he has been reaching for, whether he's admitting it or not in full. Well, now for Drake to just follow up a song that united the OVO losers with this mid-Central Cee collab, which unlike What Did I Miss, and I can't believe this, but I'm about to give that song a little bit of props. It's not even the bad type of entertaining like that, where we get to see a crash out with disses that are all over decent production. But instead, this time it's just bad vocals, bad performances, bad vibes, bad music, and bad everything wrapped into one package. And really with this, well, we are going to find out everything we need to know when we see this record come and go and have absolutely no cultural impact whatsoever. And I am sure now, with how bad this song looks like it's about to end up doing, with just how bland and boring it is, well, overall, this record is really tanking, and I would imagine it won't end up making the Iceman album as a whole if it does not do okay numbers for Drake standards, and it does not look like that will even happen at this point. And really now, with the way that Drake is making albums, as he is following in the footsteps of a music merchant like Morgan Wallen, who is making his record with a calculator and not his own creative vision, well, this is the industry in 2025, and if the record does not give him any sort of momentum, he does not want it to be on the record, because this is not art, it's just a commodity that he's trying to push. And really, altogether now, what we are seeing is that Drake has managed to just reach a new low in every sense of the word, and even for himself, because to just be this desperate and weird at this point where you are dragging out the beef with Kendrick even more with these strange disses that are just so off-putting, and while at the same time, really now, with even the disses which you are making your fan base even more mad about Kendrick Lamar with, and all that has went down in your career, you're not even properly utilizing the momentum of their outrage to make your songs bigger and bigger. Because literally, to quote Kendrick Lamar, you are pacifying your fans with this weird Central Cee collab, which is so boring and has no flash whatsoever. I mean, we are just all over this, and this has got to stop in hip-hop, because really, with what Drake is doing, no matter how we want to look at it, as really Drake is just dispelling the art form and the intellectualism and the creativity and depth of rap music that it's always required to function as such an important cultural touchpoint. And really now, I say all of this to say, for the weird Pinocchio people who are about to get more annoying than ever, because Drake is yet again yapping like he is Aubrey and not Lawbury. Get out of here, because it's over, and Drake's time is coming to a close with how bad these moves are getting. And really, I do think that sooner rather than later, as these things continue to add up, I don't think Drake realizes this yet, because he has galvanized his fan base once again, and they are all around him like the most annoying group of people you could possibly imagine. Eventually, he's going to get to a point where this does not work, and when that happens, he's just going to lose it all. And with mid-music like this is how you fast-track that more than ever. And so now, with all this said, let me know. What do you think of the absolute monstrosity that Drake has just given us with Iceman Episode 2? What do you think about this whole Pinocchio thing? Is there anything I missed in this most baffling thing that I feel like I have seen as a rap fan in quite a long time? And also, let me know what you think about the new Drake song, which I think is really one of the most boring records I have heard of the entire year. And also, let me know what other music you're checking out this week, because a ton of new stuff has dropped. And I'm going to be talking about a lot more of what dropped very soon. So if you have not already, be sure to leave a like and subscribe. It helps me out a ton. And now, if you want to see how right before this, well, with Drake and Kendrick Lamar, as Drake is trying to pander to the UK with a weird song like we have seen here, Kendrick just showed up there and delivered a great performance, and that told everybody everything they need to know, and they got Kendrick's back over Drake's even out there now. Check out the suggested video.